You know, there's this invisible system that runs just beneath the surface of almost everything you do online. It's in your social feeds, your shopping carts. It's totally fundamental to your digital life, but most of us never even see it. So today, let's gently pull back the curtain on that system, MySQL.
I mean, just think about that for a second. How does your favorite social media app remember every single one of your friends? Or how does an online store keep your shopping cart full even if you close the tab and come back hours later? It kind of feels like magic, right? But it's not. Well, the secret is a system that stores, organizes, and retrieves information with incredible speed. It's less about magic and way more about having a really, really good filing system. So let's dive in and see how this thing actually works.
To really get a handle on this, let's use an analogy that's a bit more familiar than a filing cabinet. Let's imagine a library, a huge, perfectly organized library for all the world's digital information.
Now, the official, kind of technical term for this library is a database. And you can see the definition here, which I know sounds a little dry, a bit textbooky. But while it's accurate, I think we can make it feel much more intuitive.
So yeah, let's just stick with our library idea. It's not just a room with books thrown everywhere. It's a system where every single piece of information has a specific place, making it super easy to find exactly what you need right when you need it, right? But how is a library like this actually organized? I mean, if you just have a giant room full of information, that's not very useful, is it? You need structure, you need shelves, you need sections, and a way to label everything.
And in our database library, the first big organizational tool is something called a table. Just think of a table as a whole section of the library, like the fiction section or maybe history. In an app, you might have a users section, for instance.
And here's a perfect example of what one of these tables looks like. Let's imagine a section in our library just for classic literature. We'll call it the Classics table. As you can see, it's nothing fancy. It's just a simple, neatly organized grid. Each book gets its own entry, with a few key details. So, see each of those entries? Each one is called a row. In our analogy, a single row is basically one specific book sitting on the shelf. That whole line for Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen? Yep, that's a row. And what about the details for that book? Well, those are the columns. Just like the spine of a real book tells you its title and author, columns are the labels for each piece of information in a row. Author, title, year. Each one is a column. So the structure is simple. The library holds sections called tables, tables hold books called rows, and the rows have details on their spines called columns. Okay, so we have this perfectly organized library. Awesome. But how do we actually find a book? You don't just wander around hoping to stumble on it, right? You need to ask someone who knows the system inside and out. You need to talk to the librarian. And that's where MySQL comes in. MySQL, well, it's our head librarian. It's one of the most popular database systems in the world for a reason. It's super reliable and really efficient. It's the manager that knows exactly where everything is. The only thing is, you can't just talk to it in plain English. It understands a special language called SQL, which stands for Structured Query Language. At first glance, this might look a little bit like, scary code. And yeah, it is code, but it's a very specific and honestly a surprisingly readable kind of code. This is a typical question you might ask our librarian, MySQL. Let's break down what it's really saying. The key thing to get here is that SQL is just a very, very structured way of asking a question. The first part, select title from classics, is basically like saying, hey, can you please show me the titles from the classics section? And that second part, where author equals Charles Dickens, just adds a filter, but I only want to see the ones written by Charles Dickens. See? It's just a logical, step-by-step instruction.
All right, so now we have all the pieces of the puzzle, right? We have the library, we know how it's organized, and we have the librarian who can find anything for us. So let's connect all this back to that first question about how your favorite website works. It's this simple three-step dance that happens in a fraction of a second. 1, you click on your profile on a social media site. 2, behind the scenes, the website sends a quick SQL question to the database asking for all your info from the users table. And 3, the librarian, MySQL, instantly finds your row of data and sends it right back to the website, which then displays it for you. Every single dynamic website you use is constantly having these quiet, lightning-fast conversations with its librarian.
The physicist Richard Feynman once talked about the gift of seeing the simple ideas that underpin our complex world. And that's really what a database is, when you think about it.
It's this profoundly simple and elegant structure, a library with a librarian, that brings a beautiful sense of order to the chaotic, complex world of digital information.
So look, the main takeaway here isn't that you need to go out and learn SQL or become a database expert, unless you want to, of course, which is cool too. It's more about just appreciating this beautiful, logical system that's working tirelessly behind the scenes. Just understanding the concept of this library gives you a much deeper insight into how the digital world is actually built.
And that kind of leaves us for the final thought to mull over. MySQL is just one of these hidden systems. What other simple, invisible structures are out there hiding in plain sight, quietly and elegantly shaping the world all around you?